Hi, Coach Kiwani here. So today we're going to be talking about kombucha. So I know not everybody likes kombucha. I like kombucha. It's got probiotics in it. If you make it at home, one, it's a hell of a lot cheaper. And sorry, it's my Instant Pot. So back to kombucha. So we're going to be using just black tea. I buy this in bulk at PCC because I live in Seattle. And this is just regular white sugar, which I also buy in bulk at PCC. This is my kombucha. This is a container I use to ferment my kombucha. This thing is amazing and has made this process so much easier. I have made kombucha off and on over the years, and this is awesome. I got this actually at the Goodwill for like $5. Oops. This spout comes off so you can get it really clean if you need to. It's a really easy vessel for fermenting your kombucha in, and then when you want to fill up your little things, it's so easy. You just do it like this, right? You can buy these new, but just buy it used. I mean, seriously, like this exact one I saw at Cost Plus for like $20 or something like that. I think I bought it for $4.99. So winning. I was really excited about it. So I just like the design of this one because it has this scaling top. I don't actually use the closing. I don't use it closed when I'm fermenting. I just like put a towel over it with a rubber band, and that's how I ferment it. So, and then also we have our SCOBY, which looks pretty disgusting. It's stuff that makes your tea and the sugar ferment. I know that it uses, this little organism here uses the sugar and the caffeine in your tea to live. And this one was in the fridge overnight because I was gonna make more. I bottled up my last batch of kombucha, and I just didn't have the energy to make a new batch. So, so I just put a towel over it, threw it in the fridge. It's fine. And this is just a little leftover kombucha itself and the SCOBY. You need a little leftover kombucha because it's acidic and it will keep other organisms from growing in it. It's very low maintenance. I did not buy this SCOBY either. I made it myself. So what I did is I bought a bottle of a very popular brand of kombucha. I will not say its name. Get the original flavor, the like no flavoring flavor. And then I just made it like a normal kombucha. I put the whole bottle in, make sure it has the mother in it, which is basically leftover SCOBY bits. So I just made my tea like I normally do, put in the sugar like I normally do, put in a whole bottle of kombucha, and let it sit. It takes a little bit longer to make a SCOBY than it does to ferment once you have a working SCOBY. So I think it took like 3 weeks to make my SCOBY. And then after that, now it takes about 2 weeks to ferment. So what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna put this guy over here and recover it so nothing gets into it. Okay, so I'm gonna start, I have this pot here with like 2 or 3 liters of water, probably 3 liters of water, which you don't know, this is a liter about. So 2 or 3 of these in a large pot, and I'm gonna boil that to make my tea. And then to make the tea, I'm literally just gonna put a cup of bulk loose leaf tea in there and let it steep and then let it cool down. So basically once this comes to a boil, I'm gonna put a cup of tea in there, turn it off and take it off the heat and then just let it cool down. And then right now what I'm gonna do is 2 cups of sugar. And I'm like really basic with this, nothing crazy. So 1, 2, I'm gonna fill this about to here. So get this ready. So yeah, about a cup of tea. Just regular old black English breakfast tea. And then, yeah, we're just gonna wait for that and then I'll show you what we're gonna do next. So the hot water is ready. I'm just gonna take the lid off, put our cup of tea in there, put the lid back on and take it off the heat. That's it. And you're just gonna let that brew until it cools down. And the only reason why, well, two reasons why you want it to cool down. One is you don't want to crack your glass. And two, you don't want to scald your SCOBY. So because it's a living thing, it doesn't like too hot of water. So yeah, so we're just gonna let that sit. And what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna put a little bit of water in here to start dissolving the sugar. Yeah, I don't know how much this is. Anyways, this is a lot of kombucha. It's gonna make a lot of kombucha. So I just put some water in here and I'm just gonna slosh this around to kind of dissolve some of the sugar. So I know that sugar consumption, especially in the US, is a problem, but when it comes to kombucha, my understanding is that the SCOBY is actually consuming that sugar and turning it into something else in the fermentation process, much like beer and or wine, where the sugar component or the carbohydrate component of the grain and or the grapes are then converted into something else, i.e. alcohol. So this will likely have an alcohol percentage to it. I don't know what that alcohol percentage is. If you look at some of the different brands of kombucha, they say it's around like 2.5%. And that seems about right. Like I don't feel loopy when I drink kombucha. But you know, if you're worried about that, maybe this isn't the beverage for you. I like consuming kombucha as a treat and or as a substitute for if people are drinking and I don't feel like drinking, then I'll have kombucha. It's kind of a treat. It's not like an everyday beverage for me. I know some people do drink it every day, but you know, like I'm just gonna slosh that around. There's still a lot in there. The last batch, this is just regular black tea. The last batch of kombucha that I made with Earl Grey tea, which is pretty delicious if you like Earl Grey tea. And then I'm gonna start playing around with some green tea kombucha too, because green tea kombucha has a little bit lighter flavor. And yeah, so you can do basically anything. You can also do in the second ferment, because you do the first ferment in here and then you do a second ferment in the bottle. So like this is just the tail end of the second ferment. And you can add like juice or fruit to it to kind of flavor it a little bit. I'm sure some people have had the like flavored kombuchas that are like blueberry or guava, whatever. It's like guava juice is put in there or whatever. I don't do anything like that. One, because it makes the bottles a little bit harder to clean. And I'm lazy. That's really what it comes down to. I'm like, how can I make this as easy as humanly possible? Because I do enough. So, yeah, so the second ferment is meant to add a little bit of carbon dioxide. So you'll notice when you're making your kombucha that there's bubbles that form, and that is some carbon dioxide. Yeah. Carbon dioxide. So carbon dioxide gets released in the fermentation process and you will see those bubbles coming off, right? So we're gonna fill this up with our tea, we're gonna put our SCOBY in here, and then like in 2 weeks, you'll notice like little bubbles around the edge of the SCOBY and like coming from here. And then what you're gonna do is you're gonna use the little spout and bottle it. And you I use these baling. I also get these at the thrift store. These are the IKEA ones, but still, like, there's shit tons of them at the thrift store. Let's be real. So I basically just bottle them off, and then because it's these baling wire, it seals really tightly. So what that does is it increases the atmospheric pressure inside the bottle, to talk about science a little bit. So increasing the atmospheric pressure will actually force those gases into the beverage itself, because they can't escape into the air. It's going to make your beverage then fizzy, which is awesome. I found all these bottles at the thrift store, and I just washed them and then filled them up. I have like 6 or so of them. I also make my homemade ginger beer, which I'll make a different video for homemade ginger beer. But yeah, it's super easy. And this takes about 2 weeks to ferment. And then this takes a week to 2 weeks to get that like kind of fizziness going on. It's going to continue to ferment in the bottle if it's left at room temperature. Meaning it's going, like if you bottle it and you taste it, it's going to be kind of sweet. And like after 2 weeks-ish, and then once you bottle it, or once you bottle it up and let it sit for another couple of weeks, that fermentation process is going to continue, and it's going to be a lot less sweet. So the longer the fermentation process, the lower the sugar content, right? But potentially the higher alcohol. So that's kind of up to you and what you want and what flavor content you like. So, yeah. Let me put these away. So what you're going for when you're making your tea, you want a really, really strong tea, because the caffeine, the longer you let it sit, the more caffeine you're going to get out of those tea leaves, and that is what is making up helping the SCOBY actually grow, is the caffeine. So it's actually eating the caffeine and using the caffeine as a fuel source, much like we do every morning. Let's be real here. So yeah, so basically I'm just gonna let that sit and not ferment, brew. Just gonna let that brew for a little while, and then we're gonna strain it through a mesh strainer, and then add some water, add the SCOBY, and go from there. So what we're gonna use is just a regular old sieve to pour. I probably shouldn't have worn white. Our water is cooled. It's not super cool, but we're gonna add cold tap water to it, so it's no big deal. And then, woo! Pour it through the sieve. And it's a really strong black tea, and that's the point, right? You want it to be, hey, all right, you want a nice strong brew for your black tea, and then we're gonna add cold water to it and thin it out a little bit. So I filled this up with just regular old tap water. You know, some recipes will be like, you have to use filtered water. You do not need to use filtered water. You do not need to have this be complicated or scary or anything. It's actually like incredibly easy. Oof. All right. So the only thing left to do is add your SCOBY. So this is about right. Like, this is a very strong tea. Last thing I want to do is just make sure that all of the sugar is mixed in. So I'm just going to get, and I'm using, that's the one thing I would say, I'm using a wooden spoon. It's clean, you know, and I'm just using this because apparently the SCOBY does not like metal. So don't use a metal spoon. You can use plastic, I suppose, but I'm not a big fan of plastic. So last thing is just I put this on a towel on purpose because apparently I'm messy, and I'm just gonna dry this off and then get a clean towel. And this is how I do this. I put this in the cupboard, and I cover it and I put a rubber band around it, but I cover the front of it so that this part doesn't get exposed to light, because this kind of likes to be in a warm, dark place. It's another reason why I put it in the cupboard and not like on your countertop, because it just likes to be out of the sunlight. Sunlight is not great for it. So I cover the front of the container with my cloth here, and then I just save these rubber bands from when I get flowers or produce or whatever, and just reuse them that way. And that's it. And I just let it sit in the cupboard for like, I don't know, 2 weeks-ish, like around 2 weeks. And I say around 2 weeks because like 2 weeks hits, and usually takes me about 2 to 3 days to actually get the time to bottle it up and then make a new batch. So I bottled up the last batch last night actually, and those are gonna sit in the cupboard for another week or two, and this is gonna sit in the cupboard for 2 weeks, and then, you know, so that's the rollover basically. It's kind of a slow process. And then once they're done in the cupboard, like the bottled ones, these ones that I bottled yesterday, once they're ready to go, when you open it, it will like psh and fizz basically. So what I do is I put them in the refrigerator so you have nice cold kombucha, plus it stops the fermentation process. So basically what you're doing is you're going through a double fermentation. So first fermentation is here, second fermentation is in the bottle, and then you stop the fermentation process in the refrigerator. I have one bottle in the refrigerator from my previous batch, and I'm working through pretty quickly. So this is the last of the last batch. So it's kind of a pretty easy rhythm of rollover. It's not super complicated. It just takes a little bit of time and practice. Obviously, me talking you through this takes a little bit longer, but if I do this without talking about it, it takes me maybe, not including letting the tea cool, it takes me maybe 20 minutes, not even. Because it's just like boiling water, adding sugar and water to the container, mixing it around, putting tea in here, and then putting the SCOBY back in. It's like so easy. So I hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, please comment below. If you like this video and it was helpful, please like and subscribe, give me a thumbs up. And yeah, I hope to see you soon. Okay, bye. Oh, there's still a lot in there.